Sunday morning in Rispond Bay, a small inlet just off Loch Eriboll. And today the plan is to sail around Cape Wrath on the north-west point of Scotland and then commence our passage southwards. We plan to stop at a place called Kinlochbervie, which is 10 or 15 miles south of Cape Wrath, and having had several days on the trot at sea, we're going to have a couple of rest days there, so it's only one rest day. There's nothing here at all. We've seen nobody since we arrived, but there are a couple of buoys in this little inlet, perhaps used by fishermen. We've not seen any fishermen. It's been a lovely anchorage, very calm, slept very well, and the holding seems to be quite good. Mike is just about to come into view. He'll be in the sun, so you may not see him. There's Mike, there's his boat. And there's the entrance to Loch Eriboll. So I've come into the cockpit to set up a plotter and to have a coffee. And once I've done that, we'll set off on our way. The scenery when we entered last night was absolutely magnificent, looking right down the loch, huge mountains either side, really impressive. Hopefully we'll see some more impressive scenery today as we go around Cape Wrath. We've just left the anchorage and this is looking back into Loch Eriboll. Really impressive scenery. It extends for several miles inland, directly ahead of us now, but we're heading out towards Cape Wrath. Because the conditions are calm, we've decided to pick our way between the islands, just outside the loch, and there's Mike there. He's leading the way this morning. To starboard we have the island of Enhone, if it's pronounced like that, probably not. The gap straight ahead is the one we're heading for, and on the peninsula there's a few houses, the first we've seen for a while. Very lonely property up there. And looking back onto Lake Eriboll as we head towards Cape Wrath. It's a lovely morning, but the wind is forecast to get up later, so we thought we'd get round Cape Wrath before the wind gets up. I think that's probably a good decision. With a bit of luck we'll be in Kinlochbervie for coffee time. That'd be lovely. We are coming up to Farrad Head now, so once we're around that we should see our first glimpse of Cape Wrath. We're both motoring, there's very little wind, about 5 knots, but it's nice to be able to enjoy the scenery. It really is spectacular. And there's no one else about, we're totally alone here really. Now past the headland and are heading west towards Cape Wrath. Cape Wrath is just visible in the distance. The little white lighthouse is on top of the cliffs there. Just before we get there, there's a small rocky island called Anchorage or something like that. And we're going to give that a bit of an offing because there's some shallow water to the north of it. But after that we'll have a good clear view of Cape Wrath, our destination. We've just passed this rocky islet off the coast, and there's now nothing between us and Cape Wrath. These are the tallest cliffs on mainland Great Britain. I'm not sure if there are taller ones on Orkney, but these are the tallest ones on the mainland. And there's a stack at the end, just visible. And then 3.8 miles ahead is Cape Wrath itself. And there is, standing off Cape Wrath, a rock called Dustlick Rock, which is sometimes visible and sometimes awash. And in the settled conditions we've got today, we've decided that it will be safe to pass between Cape Wrath and Dustlick Rock. So we'll be going really quite close in to Cape Wrath when you're around it. We're now just 2 miles off Cape Wrath, and I'm very pleased to have seen the sea breaking over the Dustlick Rock, which is just off Cape Wrath. It's good to be able to identify it and to be certain where it is, so we'll keep well clear of that as we go round the cape in a few minutes. Mike is at the minute leading. We were hoping to get a little bit of a lift from a back eddy. The pilot book says that there is almost always a west going stream at this point along the coast, along the north coast towards Cape Wrath, but I think almost always means not now, because at the minute we don't have that. We have slight tide against us, but it's very slight and it's not really affecting us at all. So hopefully we'll get round the head safely in a few minutes, and I'll report back then. We're about a mile away now. Here we are on the chart, the red boat. The triangle next to us is Mike Paget and Paget's lady. Dustlick Rock here, we have seen that very clearly. It is, what the seas are breaking over it now, so it's very easy to keep well clear of it. So we'll be rounding Cape Wrath in just a few minutes. We have arrived at Cape Wrath, and what a terrifying place this must be in bad weather, but today with 14 knots of wind, a little bit of swell, it's really fine. And apart from being rocked around just a little, we're very comfortable motoring past. We have seen over here, just north, you can just about pick out Dustlick Rock. The sea is breaking over it. So obviously we gave that a very wide berth. And there's the cape itself with the lighthouse. It was the second lighthouse built, apparently, in Scotland, after the one at Fraserburgh. There's a foghorn up there as well, probably out of use now. And Mike's just rounded, and he's begun to head south. So this is the last corner. We've been to Land's End, we've been to North Foreland, we've been to Duncansby Head, and now we've just passed Cape Wrath. So we'll be turning south, and for much of the rest of our circumnavigation we'll be heading south back to Fleetwood. This was one of the feared points of the whole trip, and it was a big decision to come via Cape Wrath rather than through the canals, but I'm so glad we did, because this is a spectacular sight on a Sunday morning in the sun. Very difficult to get to Cape Wrath. There's no roads to it. There's probably a track to the lighthouse, but I'm not sure that's available for people to use. So really only people in boats will be able to enjoy the view that we have now, and it is a spectacular view. There's our route south, and we now make for Kinlochbervie. It's very satisfying looking back on Cape Wrath, having got round safely, and I'm very pleased to say that after so much motoring, we are now sailing, and we are purely sailing on a very broad reach, not quite a run, a very broad reach, heading south towards Kinlochbervie. Straight ahead we have a gap there between the mainland and a little islet or rock called Ambaig, and we're going to go between the two of those. So the Genoa is just flapping slightly because it's covered by the mainsail. We'll be covering about somewhere between 5.5 and 6 knots over the ground, and a bit more through the water. There's still a bit of adverse current, but it's certainly not enough to cause us any problems. As you can see, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous sunny day. We've spotted another yacht coming northwards in the distance, may not show up on the video. So we hope he or she is fine. And Mike is over there and he's just raised his sails. We had a chat on the radio. He asked me how it was going sailing. I told him it was going very well, so he's raised his sails. And we expect to get into Kinlochbervie something like 12:30. Good time for lunch. Well, the delightful sailing didn't last long. The wind soon dropped and we had a tide of about knot and a half against us. So for most of the way down from Cape Wrath we have been under engine. We are just reaching the point where we need to turn to port to enter Loch Eriboll, and Kinlochbervie is a little inlet just off the loch. Huge mountains in the background, as you can see, very impressive mountains. We have tried to make contact several times with Kinlochbervie by mobile, but had no response. It's a bank holiday Sunday, perhaps that's why. When we get a bit closer, I'll try on VHF. So we're just preparing to turn to port. You can see the entrance to Loch Eriboll opening up behind the nearest rock there. We have turned to port and are heading towards the entrance to Loch Eriboll, which I think is directly ahead now, just between the shrouds. You can see the seawater suddenly gets calm once it's protected by this little outcrop here. So hopefully we'll have a bit of peace from the swell inside the marina when we get there. It's not really a marina, it's a fishing port, but there is a pontoon there available for visiting yachts. We hope very much there'll be space on it. It's always one of the concerns when coming into a harbour like this. We've tried to make contact but haven't had much luck. A bit nearer now, still haven't managed to raise the harbour on VHF. I'll have to wait until we get closer to the entrance. Fabulous weather, really warm sun, lovely scenery. The only thing that's worrying me slightly is, according to the chart, there's a light on the left-hand rock there, just at the entrance to the loch. Can't see it, but we're definitely in the right place, unless my GPS is playing up. I don't think it is, because we've seen on AIS another boat coming out. So I think it's just a matter of proceeding, and when we get closer to the entrance to the harbour, I'll pull them up on 14. Just see the loch opening up now in front of us. I've seen the light now. It's right on top of that rock. Small light. There's a boat coming out. And there is a North Cardinal buoy along here as well. I can see it, so we must leave that to the north. So it looks like the entrance is just to port. We had no response on the radio, but a yacht that was leaving very kindly called me up and gave me the instructions on how to enter and where to berth. So I was very grateful to the helm of that yacht for doing that. So we're just making our turn into Kinlochbervie. There are two perches, a red and a green, so we'll go between those. And then I'm hoping the harbour will open up in front of us. There's a few houses here. Oh, it looks very calm, that's super. There's some fishing boats. Some kind of factory or fish processing place. The yacht that called us up said that there was somebody in a green boat who was very helpful. I can see two green boats and only a white boat the other side. So I think if we go on this pontoon, we'll be fine. We're here safely. We're both berthed alongside on the pontoon. There's one other yacht on the pontoon here, so if anyone else comes in we may have to raft, although there is a berth to the left there. Otherwise it looks like mostly small fishing boats, little processing facility there, and it's a totally beautiful location. Mountains in the background. Of course at the minute we're seeing it at its best in strong sunlight, but there's a little shop here. So I think we'll have a rest day and enjoy being up here in the Highlands in these lovely conditions.